Well, good morning, friends. I am here on the wharf. It's Friday morning. Yay, I'm so excited. This week went by fast. But I'm here, and there's a little otter that's been up here closer. He just kind of moved down a little bit, but he's right in the center between the boat, in the center of the center. So I was going to just say, I don't know if you could see him, but I thought I'd just give you a quick little glimpse. And this morning, I had read this little story, and I was just blessed by it. So I thought this morning I would take a minute and I would share it with you. Hopefully, if you could zoom in on your camera, you might be able to get a good picture of him. Anyway, he is so cute. He's having a little breakfast, and he's just coming up. He lays on his tummy, and he's like just washing himself, washing his food, and having a good time over there. Hopefully I didn't get you dizzy, sorry. But anyway, I thought I would just read this because it blessed me. So it's a little story. There was a day I knelt before the Lord, along with many other people, waiting to face him. Before each of us laid our lives, like a square, like the squares of a quilt in many piles. An angel was assigned to each of us and held what seemed like squares sewn together into a type of quilt tapestry that was our life. My angel was holding something that seemed in many ways different than the gentleman in front of me. I noticed how ragged and filled with holes many of my squares were. Some were giant holes, which left a simple border of what would have been a square. I noticed each of these squares were labeled with a part of my life that had been difficult, very challenging, or represented a temptation that I was facing in my everyday life. I saw hardship that I had endured, represented by thin strands barely holding the quilt together. I glanced around and I couldn't see anyone who had such squares. Others had tiny holes. Others had a tiny hole here and there. Other tapestries seemed to be filled with rich color and bright hues. Even gold thread placed that was placed through different places in the tapestry where they had reached worldly fortune. I gazed upon my own life's tapestry and looked at it in comparison and began to be disheartened, while what seemed to be a lump began to form in my throat. What was I going to say about what I was perceiving? Each person in line, in turn, was asked to come forward holding up their tapestry. Finally, the time came when my life was to be displayed before the Creator. For full viewing it, For full viewing, it would be draped over a large pole that rested before a huge window where light spilled into the room. My angel looked upon me and nodded for me to rise and go forward. My gaze dropped to the ground. I hadn't had all the earthly fortunes, but I had had love in my life, and I had laughter. But there had also been many trials, trials of illness, trials of false accusations that took from me many times my world as I knew it. I had to start over many times, and I had often struggled with temptations to quit, only somehow I would muster enough strength to pick up and begin again. I had spent many nights on my knees in prayer, asking for help and guidance in my life. I had always tried to praise God in the middle of whatever I was going through and trust Him. I had often been held up to ridicule, which I endured painfully, each time offering it up to God, in hopes that I would not melt within my skin beneath me of the judgmental gaze of those who unfairly judged me. And now I had to face my Creator. My life was what it was, and I had to accept it for what it had been. I rose and I slowly lifted the combined squares of my life to the light that the angel had gathered together. An awe-filled gasp filled the air. I gazed around at others who stared at me with wide eyes. Then I looked upon the tapestry before me. Light flooded through many holes and created an image. It was the face of God, the one I stood before. Then the Lord stood before me with warmth and love in His eyes, and He said, "Every time you gave over your life to me, it became my life, my hardship, my struggle. Each point of light in your life is when you stepped aside and you let me shine through you, no matter the circumstance. I gave you strength until there were more and more and more and more of me than there was of you. So, child, I do not say welcome home. No, I tell you, you have been at home in me." Oh, I thought that was such an awesome little story. Great little parable. I hope that you guys will be encouraged by it and know that every day as you go out into the world and as you trust and turn to the Lord, as you're still and know that He is, as you walk in your identity and in the power of His Spirit, just know that He delights in you and He is pleased with you and His love extending through you in the earth. Have a great and glorious, love-filled and victorious, and enjoy your weekend, friends.